Yo, this is Pastor Tito here with another week of our series called Family Matters, as we are looking at what does the Bible have to say, what does God have to say about the family, so that we know how to better appreciate and handle and live with and deal with the family that really God has given us. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one, because listen, we've all done this. At some point, I'm pretty sure you have seen other families and compared it to your own, and in some way felt and asked yourself and said this: man, I wish my family, fill in the blank. Right? Like, I wish I'm not gonna tell you which one of these that I will, just give me a second. I wish my dad was like his dad. I wish like my mom was like her mom. I wish my family lived where they lived. I wish my family had what they had. I wish my family did certain things that others do. Like, me, like back more in the even now, like I wish my family hung out more than like other people do. That would be one, right? And so I wish my family, we've all done that. And why? Well, sometimes, maybe depending on you, I don't know. Maybe as a child, a lot of us grow up and we look at our families, our grandparents, our aunts, our uncles, our parents, and they're just bigger than life to us. And a lot of them can be our heroes. And then when we get a little older, we recognize that our parents are just regular people. Yeah, they may be great, but they're not perfect, right? They're just a person like anyone else. Maybe that can be difficult. And because we know our family so much and we know their flaws, we look at other people's and we see their family, and then because we don't know them, we make these assumptions and think, wow, but man, they have it all. I wish my family was like. And see, that's deceptive, because yeah, you might know yours, but you don't know theirs. And then it causes you to devalue the very thing that God has given you, which is family. Now listen, here's the one thing that I want you to know, which is true for everybody, including my family, all right? Listen, in one way or another, every family is dysfunctional, okay? That should make you feel better about yourself, all right? Every family is dysfunctional, meaning every family is gonna have its little, loose nuts and craziness and screw looses and all that. There is not one family that is perfect. Every family is dysfunctional. And so, what if I told you? What if I told you that there's a way that understanding can help you better appreciate and better maximize and enjoy the imperfect family that you have? That's not a negative statement. That's going to be a positive one in the end. Now, here's one crazy thing that I want you to know. It's really this. Ready? Do you know that in this book, in the Bible, all right, we see God over and over and over and over again use imperfect people and dysfunctional families? Which is amazing to see, because we know Abraham, he had great faith and was a pioneer of his day, and he was super important for a lot of reasons. But we see, as we study Abraham in the book of Genesis, Abraham wasn't perfect. Abraham had his flaws. He had great faith in God and had some moments when he was like, kind of lied and tried to cover up and try to save himself and little things here and there. Isaac began to live in a kind of way that the further he lived, the kind of like less and less he kind of believed in God. And it was there, but he had a lot of issues. And then Jacob, oh my gosh, Jacob and Esau, all right, that story in Genesis is ridiculous. Here, God wants to use Abraham and says, I'm going to give you a family that's going to bless the world, and that family is going to produce a nation. And by Abraham's grandkids, we have Jacob and Esau fighting and arguing, and they're both so self-centered. Like, how is God going to pull this off with this dynamic duo of destruction? Jacob and Esau were ridiculous. It was crazy. Here, one was being, manipulative of the other, and the other one could care less about the birthright and all the stuff that God wanted to do. So Jacob lies, and then Jacob does this and deceives, and then Esau wants to plot and kill his brother, and the other one takes off. And it's crazy. It's crazy. And then you keep going, and Jacob's kids are no better. Man, the 11 kids, the 12 that would become the 12 tribes of Israel. Man, some of them were the things that they did. And yet we see throughout the Old Testament, as one man became one family, and as one family became a tribe, and that tribe became a nation, that family was very dysfunctional. And yet we see still God use them. Their dysfunction did not cancel out God's destiny. You hear me? That dysfunction, their family dysfunction, did not cancel out God's destiny for them to be a nation that was going to impact all of the nations of the world through Jesus Christ, which was the fulfillment of the promise that God gave Abraham. And that is important for us to see and notice. In fact, let's even pause with Jacob and Esau, right? I mean, Jacob and Esau was weird. It was like, man, Jacob, the deceiver, that's the one that the Messiah is going to come from? Like, God is going to use that guy to produce the Messiah and to save the world? I mean, that's not fair. I don't think he even deserves that. Neither does Esau. Well, when we look at Hebrews 11:20, you know what's crazy? Hebrews 11:20, and I want to encourage you to read it for yourself. It pretty much is saying that, listen, God took, and it talks about Jacob and Esau, and how their really dysfunction was able and was used in order to display the goodness of God. Because if God can still love people like that, that means he can love someone like you. If God can use a dysfunctional family like that, that means that God can move in your dysfunctional family. Regardless if you have a dad or not, regardless if you have a mom or not, regardless if you got both parents and they don't love each other, yet they're still together. Regardless if you have a step parent or not, regardless if you have siblings or friends or not, regardless of your family, this is full of dysfunctional families, yet their dysfunction did not cancel out God's destiny. And that is the same for you. And that's the good news that I was trying to tell you about. That when you understand that, when you understand that there is no perfect family, only one perfect God, then that can lead you to have some hope. And here's the bottom line, ready? Your family matters, even when it's fractured, okay? Your family matters even when it's fractured. You may look at the fractures and then you see someone else and be like, oh, they are perfect. I wish I had what they have. And you won't realize, and you will miss out on the gift that God has given you right now. Yes, your family's not perfect, and God did not mean for that to happen, right? He has different hopes and dreams for us, and yet because of sin, we make decisions. Yet those decisions, God can turn around and make all things work together for good, for those who love God and are called for his purposes. Did you hear me? He can take all things, including your entire dysfunctional family, to make it work for good. And so remember, listen, your family matters to God. And I want you to have that same heart for your family. Your family matters even if it's fractured. Your family matters even if it's fractured. And when you recognize that, now you say, Lord, fill in the gaps, fill in the cracks, because we need you. Listen, your parents are not perfect. I'm not perfect. I have not been a perfect parent. I have not been a perfect dad, a perfect husband. None of us have been. None of us will ever be. And it's important to humble ourselves in that way and not view ourselves as any less, because God sees your fractures and still loves you. He sees your fractures and he's still faithful. And that should lead you to surrender all things. Give it to God so that he can fill those cracks and bring healing to your family. So because your family matters even when it's fractured, that should encourage you to do two things. Ready? Well, encourage you to do one thing and not the other. That should encourage you, all right? That should encourage you not to count out anyone in your family. You hear me? Including yourself. That should cause you, knowing that God's family, God matters, right? Your family matters to God, even though it is fractured. That should lead you not to count out anyone in your family. Not to say, well, God can't save him, God can't save her, right? No, do not count them out. Continue to love them, continue to serve them, continue to pray for them, because God never gave up on any one of these people despite what they did. And he hasn't given up on you. So don't count someone else out. Don't count someone else out, and don't check out. Don't check out on your family. Don't say, well, I hate everybody here and I'm just done. No, don't check out, okay? Do not count anyone else out, including yourself, and do not check out. Rather, continue to press in, pray, serve for your family. Serve your family, okay? Because your family matters. And what you do in the love of God towards your family matters more than you think. Regardless of all the fractures, regardless of any of the imperfections, God sees it all and he can make a difference. So listen, God hasn't given up on you. God hasn't given up on your family. So don't give up on God, and don't give up on your family.